Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be looking into this album's 35th anniversary this month. I don't know when the exact day this came out, but I know it was released in this month, in 1984. And this is, from my opinion, one of the pioneering bands in black metal. And pretty much this is pretty much where it started it all. And as you can see by the title, today we're going to be looking into the Bathory's self-titled debut album, which was released in October of 1984. Now, when you're talking classic black metal bands, one of the first bands that comes to mind is Bathory. They pretty much set the standards for how a black metal should be made, and they're, in my opinion, a lot of people consider this album to be the very first black metal album that would later, especially like the first wave of bands like them, Celtic Frost and Hellhammer, that would like inspire other bands to come forth, like Emperor, Mayhem, Dimmu Gear, Gear 1349, bands of that like that. And and a lot of people both think Venom started black metal. That's simply not true. They only made the term black metal, but I feel like Bathory pretty much did the rest with this classic album. Hard to believe 35 years on, this would just be insane. And I feel like Bathory's probably like a little bit closer to like the current days of black metal with the production that's garbage, which is in a good way. Has some shrieking vocals, satanic lyrics, and a very eerie atmosphere. And this album is not really black metal, but more like a thrash metal album. However, it does contain the elements of a proper black metal album. Now, Bathory started in 1983 in Vällingby in Sweden, consisting of only three members at that time. Since I believe there were three-piece consisting of Thomas Forsberg, aka Korthon, on guitar and vocals, Fredrik Melander, aka Fredrin, on bass, and Jonas Ackerlund, or Vans McBurger, on the drums. And I feel like they got a first chance to show what they could do when they first formed, and wow, and they've gotten, and of course a year later went and recorded their debut album, and here we are. Who knew that this band would pretty much invent or pretty much revolutionize a new genre, especially at that time, which wasn't even really prominent around the time of 1984, but of course as the years go on, it's pretty much popular to where it pretty much made what black metal is right now. Now, so without further ado, let's look into each of these songs track by track. Now, the album starts off with Storm of Damnation. Sure, well, this technically has two sides, being a side is darkness and side evil. So we'll just talk about the first song being Storm of Damnation, which is the intro of this song, which is very hard to comment on just how it sounds. And it sounds like a windstorm, but it could be anything. Some say it might be boring, but I think it's just a perfect intro to the album. I very much love atmospheric tracks. Sadly, because it doesn't have much of a re-listening value, so I usually skip to the next songs, but it is a strong intro nonetheless. Being the first song we'll talk about is Hades. Well, now this was actually, believe it or not, the first Bathory song I ever heard, and in my opinion, it kicks ass. The riff is very easy to headbang to, and the drumming is very simple, and this is what I like about this album. It's simple. Sometimes you just need a break from the super technical guitar work and drums that you would hear in bands of like Nile or Cryptop. But then again, Bathory and Nile are two completely different from each other. I mean, sadly, like the bass is almost impossible to hear, which sucks, but at least for me anyway. While listening, I sort of noticed the structure of this song is very similar to Venom's black metal. Anyway, this is a track that you should not skip. Reaper, which is another great song. Korthon shrieks in this song, which sounds great. Just like Hades, the riff is great. And there's even a little guitar solo in here. And the drums have more variety in this song than in Hades, which is great. And I could hear the bass a lot better here on this song, so that gives it a thumbs up. It's one of my favorite songs off the album. Next song here is Necromancy, which is a great headbanger. It has some of the best guitar work on this album, catchy drum beats, and a bass which you can hear sometimes. And the vocals are perfect, and they match the tone and music of this track perfectly. I don't really have much to say about this that I didn't say before, and this is another favorite of mine. Sacrifice, which this is one right here is the closest to black metal that this album It has the best riff out of all the tracks on this album, in my opinion, and it is a and has a I can't even speak today. Has a very good guitar solo. It sounds a little sorrowful at times, which I like. The bass is very audible on here, and Ribbon is good in this song. The drums on here are also great, and the vocals are perfect at this song. Corthon unleashes some surprisingly good screams during this track, and this is one of the tracks that were on Scandinavian Metal Attack. The other one was The Return to Darkness and Evil. It's another awesome track that you must listen to. Next song on here is In Conspiracy with Satan, and this song doesn't fuck around. It gives you non-stop black metal from beginning to end. It has a very nice riff, which some really fast-paced drumming. You could definitely hear the bass okay, but it isn't that clear. And to me, this song is a little bit repetitive and not as interesting as some of the other tracks on the album, but it's overall a solid track. Next song on here is Armageddon. Now this song was a step upward from the previous track. It attains more variation and a more audible bass. And around 1:20, a small bass solo kicks in. It sounds great. And the riff was good, but by now the songs can sound very similar. The drums were also good, and it ends with a fade out, which personally I'm not a fan of, but it actually works. Next song on the album is called Raise the Dead, which begins with some very creepy bell ringing. A heartbeat can also be heard afterwards. A great riff kicks in, and this is without a question the most eerie track on this album. But the vocals are really bone chilling, and so are the rest of the instruments. It has an awesome solo at the end with a scary gong, another favorite of mine. Next song is War, which it begins with the same riff from Reaper, which is not that good. However, if you can get past that, it's a really good song. The vocals are really aggressive and the drums are still pretty good, but by now you probably wanted some more variety with them. But Larson only has the tom, a snare, one crash, and one bass drum, and one hi-hat, so it can't be easy to vary the drumming. It also has a pretty good solo, and at the end it sort of ends really abruptly, but it's still worth listening to. Then it has then the last song on here is a little outro called The Winds of Mayhem. Now when you hear this sound, you will think back during you're listening to this album, and you think, wow, it's a perfect way to end the album. And it was featured on every album up until Hammerheart. And it was actually also featured on Nordland too, fitting that was the last Bathory album. Now overall, Bathory's self-titled debut album is a start to, and pretty much the first album, or pretty much an album that pretty much revolutionized the genre known as black metal. It's like very simple and short, but sometimes the songs can be a little bit repetitive, but I just really like the song structures and just like the good musicianship I can appreciate. So if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give this probably a solid 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. Probably a 9.5. I like it. So yeah, that's my review of Bathory's self-titled debut album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.